You think you're stressed because your phone's on 12%? Your grandfather raised 4 kids on one wage in a house he owned outright and never once took a pill to sleep at night. So before you tell me the modern world is just better, sit down because I'm about to take that apart piece by piece. The 1970s get called grim. Strikes, brown carpets, 3-day weeks. And sure, I'll give you all of that. But here's the twist nobody wants to admit. By almost every measure that actually matters to a human being. Not a shareholder, not an algorithm, a human being. That decade was doing something right that we have completely lost. I'm going to walk you through 9 of them, one at a time, and by the end, you're going to look at your own life differently. Stick with me because number 1 is going to make you very uncomfortable. Let's start with the one nobody likes to talk about. In the 70s, depression existed, anxiety existed, people struggled. I'm not pretending life was some emotional utopia, but here's the difference. People weren't marinating in it from the age of 9. A kid in 1975 had a bad day at school, went home, and that bad day actually ended. It lived in that day, and then it was over.
All of these kids are obsessed with YouTube.
I would rather my kids smoke than be on social media.
Today, it doesn't end. A kid gets home, and the bad day follows them into their bedroom, glowing in their hand. They compare their body, their holiday, their birthday party, their followers, to 400 carefully curated strangers before they've even had breakfast the next morning. There's no closing the door on it anymore, because the door is a screen, and the screen never sleeps. And look at the numbers, because this isn't just a feeling. 1 in 5 young people today report chronic anxiety before they've even left school. Referrals for teenagers who self-harm have climbed for more than a decade. We built the most connected generation in human history, more connected than any generation that's ever lived. And somehow it's also the loneliest one on record. Think about that for a second. More contact than ever, more loneliness than ever. That's not a coincidence. That's a bill coming due, and we're the ones paying the interest on it. Don't go anywhere, because the next one is about who you could actually trust. In the 70s, if someone shook your hand on a deal, that was the deal. You didn't need a solicitor to read the small print, because there wasn't any small print. Your word was your bond, and if you broke it, the whole street knew by Tuesday. You paid for it with your reputation, which back then was worth more than money. Now look at the world we've built instead. Subscriptions that are deliberately hard to cancel. 3 clicks to sign up, but a phone call, a retention offer, and a guilt trip to get out. Free trials that quietly start charging your card the moment you forget about them. And they're counting on you forgetting. Terms and conditions running to thousands of words that nobody on earth actually reads, because the company knows nobody will. Burying the one clause that matters on page 11. We didn't just get more advanced. We got better at extracting money from people who trust us. Entire business models now exist because confusion is more profitable than honesty. In the 70s, a dodgy trader got a bad name and lost his customers. Today, a dodgy trader hires a legal team and keeps an App Store rating of 4.2 stars. Stay with me, because this next one is about the food on your plate, and it isn't what you think. Yes, the 70s had boil-in-the-bag cod and instant mash that tasted like wallpaper paste. I'm not pretending otherwise. The prawn cocktail was not fine dining. Nobody's arguing that. But here's the twist. What they didn't have was food engineered to override your body's own I'm full signal. Sugar wasn't hidden in bread. It wasn't hidden in pasta sauce, soup, or foods that have no earthly business being sweet. A biscuit was a biscuit twice a week, not an entire packet you finished in one sitting in front of the telly without even noticing. Food scientists today are genuinely paid to calculate the exact ratio of salt, fat, and sugar that reaches what's known as the bliss point, the precise combination that keeps your brain craving the next bite before you've even finished the first one. That's not an accident. That's not just a recipe. It's engineering aimed directly at your appetite. And the results speak for themselves. Obesity rates in the 1970s were a fraction of what they are today. We're talking single-digit percentages then, compared with roughly a third of adults now living with obesity in many developed countries. That's not because people in the 70s had more willpower. People are people. It's because the food itself has changed, from something you cooked into something engineered to keep you eating long after you're no longer hungry. Hang on, because the next one affects every single person watching this, whether you've noticed it yet or not. In the 70s, if you couldn't afford something, you didn't buy it. That was the whole system. Simple as that. There was no buy now, pay later button quietly sitting beneath a pair of trainers, whispering to a 17-year-old that they could worry about it in 6 weeks. Credit cards existed, but banks didn't hand them out like sweets to students with no income and no credit history. There wasn't an entire industry of slickly designed apps whose only job was to make spending money feel weightless, frictionless, almost imaginary. Today, the average adult is juggling debt across multiple cards, loans, and payment apps. And if you asked most people to add it all up in their head right now, many couldn't. That's not an accident either. That confusion is part of the business model. Every pay in 4 button, every 0% for now offer is designed to disconnect the feeling of spending from the reality of owing. We didn't necessarily get richer as a society. We got much, much better at hiding from ourselves exactly how much we owe. Quick one before we go any further. Drop a comment below and tell me which one of these has hit you the hardest so far. Was it the mental health section? The trust section? Or this one about debt? I read every single comment and I genuinely like to know what you think. Keep watching, because this next one decides whether your kids do better than you, or worse. In the 70s, a kid from a council estate could leave school at 16, start an apprenticeship in a factory or shipyard, and within a decade be married, own a home, and raise a family that was, by many measures, better off than the one they grew up in. That ladder wasn't perfect. I'm not going to pretend it was fair to everyone, because it absolutely wasn't. Plenty of people were shut out for reasons that had nothing to do with talent or hard work. But the ladder existed, and enough people climbed it that work hard and you'll do better than your parents was a promise ordinary people genuinely believed because they saw it happening all around them. Now ask a 25-year-old today whether they think they'll ever own a home on their own income. Go on, ask one, listen to the laugh before they even answer. For many young people, that ladder didn't just become harder to climb. It feels like it was pulled up all together, rung by rung, while they were told to simply work a little harder. Don't switch off, because next, we're talking about something every person thinks about, whether they admit it or not. Would you actually feel safe walking home tonight? Here's something that'll genuinely surprise you. Violent crime in Britain has actually fallen since the 1970s. Not risen, fallen. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend the streets back then were some crime-free paradise, because they weren't. There was real violence, real danger, and real reasons to be careful. But here's the twist. Even though you're statistically safer walking home tonight than your parents were at your age, many people feel less safe than they ever did. And that gap between how safe you actually are and how safe you feel didn't happen by accident. 24-hour news needs a crisis every hour to fill the schedule. True crime plays on a loop because outrage and fear keep people watching longer than good news ever will. Social media algorithms have learned, with brutal precision, that showing you the worst thing that happened anywhere on Earth today keeps your thumb scrolling and your eyes glued to the screen. Fear became a product. It turns out fear sells better than reassurance ever could, and we've all become customers without ever choosing to be. Just wait, because this next one is about a kind of privacy we've almost completely forgotten ever existed. In the 70s, you could have a bad night. You could do something stupid, say something you instantly regretted, embarrass yourself in front of a room full of people, and it would fade. It lived only in the memory of the people who were actually there. And memory, real human memory, is forgiving. It softens the edges over time. It lets things go. 10 years later, nobody quite remembers the details, and that's a mercy. Today, a bad 30 seconds can live forever. Screenshotted, reposted, permanently stitched to your name, searchable by literally anyone who's ever curious about you for the rest of your life, whether you were 19 and stupid or just having the worst day of your year. We didn't just lose privacy from the government, from the cameras, from the data brokers. We lost something much older and much gentler than that, the mercy of being forgotten. And a society that never forgets anything is a society that never truly forgives anything either. Almost there, because this one is the wallet gut punch and you already know it's coming. The average home in the 70s cost somewhere around 3 to 4 times a single wage. Read that again. One parent working, one single income, and that was enough to buy a house outright. Garden, front door, mortgage paid off, done, before you'd even hit middle age. Today, the average home costs getting on for 9 times the average wage. 9. And that's assuming you can even scrape a deposit together with 2 full salaries, both partners working full-time, plus, more often than anyone wants to admit, help from the bank of mom and dad. That isn't nostalgia talking. That's arithmetic. A whole generation was raised on the promise that hard work equals a home of your own, a family, a future you could actually picture. For millions of young people right now, that promise has quietly, silently died while absolutely nobody was watching it happen. So let's pull this all together, because none of these 9 things happened in isolation. We swapped the mercy of being forgotten for a permanent, searchable record of every mistake we've ever made. We swapped trust for terms and conditions nobody reads. We swapped real food for engineered products. We swapped a ladder anyone could climb for a wall most people can't even see over. We swapped feeling safe for being sold fear, 24 hours a day. On a screen, we chose to carry ourselves. And underneath every single one of those trades is the same quiet transaction. We swapped stability for convenience and community for connection. Convenience and connection sound like upgrades. They were marketed as upgrades, but an upgrade that leaves you more anxious, more in debt, more afraid, and further from ever owning your own front door isn't really an upgrade at all. It's just a very well-designed trade that mostly benefits someone who isn't you. Nobody's pretending the 70s were some golden age. The medicine is better now. Some of the opportunities are wider now. I'm not asking you to want the strikes back or the wallpaper back or the 3 TV channels back. But somewhere in this trade, we lost something that never should have had a price tag on it in the first place. The simple, quiet ability to build a life without something, somewhere, quietly taking a cut of it. So here's the question worth actually sitting with tonight. If your grandparents could see the world you're living in right now, would they trade you decades? Or would they take one look at it, shake their head, and tell you to hang on tightly to whatever you've still got left? Let me know in the comments which one of these 9 things hit you the hardest. I mean it. Scroll down right now and tell me, because I read every single one of them. And if this got you thinking, the video on your screen right now goes even further, because what it reveals about the next decade is harder to hear than anything I've just told you.